This week's episode was brought to you by Espelufrio, Nefra Adenhotep, Christopher Jones, Scarred 103, Milderwood, and the one and only. Thank you, Espelufrio, Nefra Adenhotep, Christopher Jones, Scarred 103, Milderwood, and the one and only. It's with the generous support of listeners just like you that we get to keep the neurogenic input channels flowing with deeply encrypted teleological time-slice induction loops on reverse processing cyborg arrays to convert the information into sound waves that your brain is hallucinating vividly right now. If you'd like to support our cyborg manufacturing array, or perhaps just hear the second half of this episode, please visit www.patreon.com/thewholerabbit, where your monthly donation of just $5 will get you access to not only the second half of this show, but our entire library of extended episodes, more than doubling the Whole Rabbit content for you to enjoy. But that's not all. I'll send you a 5x5 high-quality gourmet waterproof vinyl sticker of our Big Bunny cover art at no additional cost. And finally, the secret keys to our Whole Rabbit's famous Discord server, where listeners and creators of the show improve their strategies for winning at Pogs. In this week's episode, we conclude our series on Zodiacal Magick and finally arrive at Wizard Talisman Metropolis to discuss the secrets contained within one of the most important books of magic ever written, the Picatrix. While its English translation is only a few years old, the contents of the Picatrix has served as a definitive source for information about zodiacal magic and talismans for over 1,000 years. Join us as we discuss the origins of Picatrix, who its author was, the philosophy contained within, a spell to transform its users into animals, and even to turn invisible with nothing but a set of unethically, illegally sourced ingredients and a long list of complicated instructions. In the extended show, we discuss how lunar mansions work, unethical spells for bewitching a love slave, a dubious cure for depression, the correct way to invoke the planet Saturn, getting as drunk as you want without dying, and how to make strange monsters from pig juices. Thank you, and enjoy the show.
Yeah, the scar is like a talisman. We had a bunch of eclipses this year. Those are all like finally the retrogrades involving planets. Like literally at one point in this year, every single planet was retrograde in the middle of a bunch of eclipses around the world.
Yep.
Essentially, walking anybody out of using this book.
So if you made talismans in the last 6 months, just throw them in the garbage.
Okay.
Just start over. Don't use them. Flush them down the toilet. Hide them in a bee's nest. Throw them inside liquid metal. Do what you gotta do. Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Whole Rabbit, where we don't just tell you about an encyclopedic list of plants, animals, colors, crystals, and body parts associated with each planet and constellation of the zodiac, so you won't be caught off guard when you bump into the hot goth mommy at the local organic food store buying fresh ingredients for spells and homemade baby food for her moon child, and she asks you what color bell pepper is best suited to the cosmic energies on this fine evening. Nay, we explain in gory detail exactly what animals, plants, and metals medieval geeks used to carefully collect, mutilate, bury, and poo-poo to ferment for a few weeks, dig up, melt down, and sneak in undetected into people's food to subdue enemies and arouse damsels they had no business sleeping with, because this week we're discussing the most beloved manuscript of Zodiacal Magick ever studied by mortal eyes. The very one which informed Agrippa's books of magic, the Picatrix. I'm your host, Luke Madrid, otherwise known as Hack Rabbit. I'm joined this week by co-hosts, the kaleidoscopic crystal corgi, Mari Sama.
Hey, far out, man.
The beautiful beheader of buttheads, Melocor 5.
Everybody needs a head.
And the blindingly brilliant big-brained beauty, Heka Astra.
Hello.
How wow.
Hello.
So, of course, we have to say this before we start talking about the Picatrix. It is a grimoire. Grimoires got weird, and in those books, they would sometimes tell you to kill animals, play with poop, pee on people. Some of these spells we're going to talk about might require the blood of a white dog for whatever reason. We're here to tell you, if we talk about it, don't do it. We don't condone those actions. I think it's safe to say that we, as a collective, don't want you hurting animals or people.
Don't hurt animals, don't cut people's heads off, and don't be unsanitary with poo-poo. Most of the other stuff you can probably get away with, though. Like making stuff out of metal or clay and chanting to the gods. Just leave the poo-poo out.
You should always ask permission or consent from somebody before you pee on them, too.
Most of the time.
So what is the Picatrix then?
I mean, The Picatrix is a book that kind of assumes you already know everything about astrology, including all the planetary relationships with each other and the mansions of the moon and everything about herbalism and the sciences and a whole variety of other things prior to working with it.
That's saying something because prior to the Picatrix, getting your hands on something this complete would have been incredibly rare or impossible. You just had to know a wizard, I would imagine.
Right, and you probably eventually would have had to come across somebody who knew Arabic or some sort of Arabic text before the Picatrix, because European mages didn't go like that far with their magical practices. For many centuries, Arabic mages and philosophers were the ones who taught this stuff until the Picatrix was translated. That's not saying that there weren't any other cultures who knew the things, but the Arabic mages kept it alive. And as such, many of the stars' names are still Arabic in origin.
On that note, that there would have to be learned people around that knew this stuff, the Picatrix itself suggests being so familiar with alchemy, astrology, and herbalism that one should be able to understand when it's being spoken of indirectly using coded language. I like this idea in general because it gives credence to the idea that learned people in these arts often do present them in hidden ways and in unexpected places, like movies or books or just about anything, architecture.
I kind of like that it's like even after being translated, it's still written in coded language. I mean, and he points it out too in the book that it basically shouldn't be used by just anyone. You have to be well learned in these arts and sciences. But it gives me the memory of watching Fantasia. You've seen Fantasia, and when Mickey Mouse gets his hands on like the wizard stuff and he decides he's gonna like animate a broom to do shit for him and it all goes catastrophically wrong. That's kind of the impression I get from the Picatrix.
That's what they're afraid of happening.
I think that's why it's still so coded, even though it tells you what to do. It's like, you should know that this is not this thing, it's actually this thing. And if you don't know going into it, then like you're just gonna fuck it up.
So you're saying following recipes in the Picatrix could be dangerous like following recipes on 4chan.
Yeah.
As the Picatrix says, first of all, you must understand that this science has been hidden by the philosophers, and they have not wished to disclose it to humanity. Nay, they have rather hidden it with all their might, and whatever they have said about it was phrased in secret words, and indeed in signs and similitudes, as though they spoke of other sciences. And they did this on account of their honesty and goodness, because if this science were revealed to all of humanity, the universe would be destroyed. And it was for this reason that they spoke of it figuratively, that no one would be able to obtain it unless this science was first revealed to them.
Makes me think of just the word occult. A cult isn't a cult. We've said this many times. It simply means something's hidden or obscured. So not only is this book telling us that these symbols are around us all the time, it's also saying it's all occulted by creation, even God's stuff. Because the author of this book puts God, Allah, on high, and like all this is all from his power. You should know that. It's just all hidden.
Just like the stuff in this book.
In its preamble, the Picatrix claims to have been compiled from over 200 earlier texts penned by various sages and wizards into one comprehensive guide for the disciple who wishes to, quote, explore the arts of the wise and look upon their secrets and search their writings for the eternal wisdom. The title in Arabic, Gayat al-Hakim, translates either as the aim of the sage or the goal of the wise, and was written according to its author between 954 and 959 AD in Moorish Spain or Andalus. Authorship has been attributed to various figures throughout history, including Abu al-Qasim Maslama ibn Ahmad al-Majriti, who, being amongst the first to experiment with mercury oxide, was the first person to make note of what chemists now term conservation of mass in his work, The Rootbot. In fact, the Picatrix, specifically the Hebrew translation, is sometimes credited with helping lay the foundation for the scientific method, because it presumes that one may confirm or refute one's hypothesis about nature by recreating those conditions presumed by the hypothesis. In fact, the author claims it was by studying a man's results, swapping out different ingredients of a cure for scorpion stings, that led him to experiment with astrological magic in the first place.
I've heard that the Picatrix was quite possibly the inspiration for H.P. Lovecraft's The Necronomicon, but that he didn't have access to a translation of the Picatrix. So without having a translation of the Picatrix to include parts or aspects of it in his storytelling, he simply used an Arabic made-up name, and this fictional book because he heard of an all-powerful grimoire, this crazy intense grimoire that he wanted to base this, I guess, universe off of. So this translation is actually a fairly recent thing to have it translated into English.
Yeah, just prior to recently, it was a mysterious book that had mysterious powers by a mysterious author, which itself bends history to accommodate its own sort of mystical narrative.
And if you didn't speak or understand Latin or Arabic, you were kind of just shit out of luck.
Yeah, I think until like the late 1800s, before it was even like in any circles to say that it was getting more popular. It's not until like the 1980s that astrology and, about 100 years or so of, people like Crowley and big figures in the scene, right, bringing this stuff to surface because they were writing books and then saying, oh, it's from the Picatrix. It wasn't until the 80s really where this interest started kicking in with translations made by modern astrologers with this modern interpretation. So their words of choice when they were translating it were a little bit different and a little bit more for us to be able to do the work.
Yeah, even in the early 1900s, if you wanted to study the Picatrix, you would either have to know Latin or work alongside somebody who could translate.
And it wasn't in print, so like you had to find somebody who had a translation of their own, and then either they're going to give you that or you're going to copy it word for word. So that's really how it was. Like this book virtually didn't exist for a while in the public pool of mana, I guess I can say.
Modern scholars now believe the author was Maslama al-Qurtubi, a man who's described as being of charms and talismans, which, as we will see, makes him an ideal description for an author of the Picatrix. Although having a shadowy anonymous author does add something to the experience, the Picatrix presents itself as an initiatory process in a master-teacher relationship, leaving the reader to feel as if they are sitting at the feet of a learned wizard, sharing their deepest insights about existence.
And this one is the true beginning, and its existence is not based on the existence of any other thing. It is whole in itself and needn't win existence from anything else. It is even impossible for it to win existence from another. It is also a priori impossible that it is in a body or is a body itself. Its existence is a different kind of existence. It has nothing in common with any other existence. Something may appear similar, but this is only in name, not in essence. It can only be one, and that is the true one, that which unifies all existent things. Because of this, we can say that all existing things are one. It is the first reality. It gives everything else reality, and its reality is whole in itself and needn't win reality from anything else.
Now go and meditate on this for a month.
I already have a headache.
To complicate matters, the Picatrix is divided into 4 books, which, according to its author, were compiled without leaving any juicy bits out, as the author puts it, being miserly. However, the information contained in each of the 4 books is presented out of order, with astronomical, magical, and philosophical exposition, physical lore, and lengthy directions jumbled together in no discernible order. Some experts think this was done purposefully to prevent dabblers from doing themselves and others serious harm. After all, the user of the book is promised results capable of quelling any doubts.
Or maybe the guy that wrote it is just a schizo.
It very much reiterates the you should know what the fuck you're doing before you even pick up this book kind of feeling. The intro for Book 4, Chapter 1, it says, "Those who intend to involve themselves in this science ought to know that it is by the works and experiments they do in this world that profound and secret sciences are known, and by works and experiments doubts are solved. This is because when anyone accomplishes his desires, his doubts are settled."
This is a great example of how Picatrix and other works like it really did inspire and lay the foundation for the scientific method. It has a strong spirit of fuck around and find out. You're encouraged to experiment with and adapt different approaches until the result is optimized. Most importantly, especially for the future of the natural sciences, is the idea that demons or even spirits are not necessarily just causing things to happen according to their will, but that physical objects had specific, indwelling properties which behaved predictably under different circumstances, whose results could be repeated and shared amongst different practitioners. Following this line of thinking also meant making potions, talismans, etc. was not necessarily evil, the devil's work, or accomplished by spiritual pacts, but just being well informed and then acting on it. While many works of magic existed, most of them, like the Greater and Lesser Keys of Solomon, focused on explaining procedure. The Picatrix, however, features philosophical insight along its various, sometimes gruesome recipes, and even describes the work as an extension of God's will.
Praise Allah! He is not commixed with the beings, and nor is he separated from them. He has no attributes. He cannot be unjust. His essence cannot be defined. He is untouched by his creation. By his power, all miraculous things are accomplished, and by him, all prayers and all sciences are made known. And by his precepts, days are distinguished from nights, and by his virtue, all things are created from nothing and proceed to their perfection. And by his power, every created thing is renewed and is governed according to the nature that pertains to it.
Praise Allah.
Praise Allah! Thus, the magician is to understand that God, unmatched and without appeal, is, was, and always will be the arbiter and source of all power in the universe. Further still, God created the world of humans and jinn to witness his good works and praise him. The ones that find his favor are never forsaken happiness. Philosophy is a gift from God, guiding its users back to unity with him. While this might seem strange at first, it's a vivid depiction of how monotheism was an important stepping stone to the non-theistic, deterministic materialism we observe today, because it meant, at least theoretically, all phenomena was congruent with one set of eternal and unchanging laws to which everything was equally subject, and furthermore, was discernible by logic and expressible through language. Early in Book 1, some of these ideas are even explained fairly explicitly. No, O my brother, Allah enlightened your mind. Philosophy is the noblest gift and the best remuneration. Philosophy gives the knowledge of first causes, on which the immediate causes of existent things are based. This is accomplished by reaching a true understanding of the essence of things, by realizing what they are and how they are, that they, with all their variations, lead one after the other to one existence. This is the reason for all existent things, first causes as well as immediate causes. This is the essence of philosophy. It illuminates the intellect and the soul through the light of eternal beauty. So lofty is this idea of philosophy, besides it just being a gift from God, philosophy itself is said to exhibit its own magical properties the magician should feel encouraged gaining in its pursuits.
Philosophy has 3 essential qualities. It is growing and not falling apart. It shines and never darkens. And it reveals itself to be looked at and never goes away. It has 3 teaching powers. It pushes away evil, it ennobles, and it withdraws from whomever rejects it.
This establishes the mental faculties as a sort of mystical vehicle, which allows its wielder, through skill, discernment, and being possessed of the right information, to cleave at the very nature of God and attain unity. In various Indian philosophies, under the Sanatana Dharma, popularly known as Hinduism, from which the Picatrix heavily borrows, there are various different paths or margas to attain union with God. The most popular paths are bhakti, devotion to a personal God, karma, right action. There's also Raja, the path of meditation, and Jnana, the path of knowledge or self-realization. According to many gurus, the narrowest and most difficult path is Jnana, which, all things considered, is what the Picatrix is offering its assistance in achieving. This sentiment is related in the opening of Book 2, Chapter 11.
I will teach you who intend to study this science, that you should study it as you proceed with a desire to help yourself by it, and you should reveal it to no one. The wise did not possess the science of the spirit, nor did they attain it without great difficulty, study, and labor. And they attained it because they were able to take up a life far removed from the concerns and cares of the world, and studied it with continual study, with the good intelligence and memory they had. By good intellect and memory, the spirit and senses are fortified, and profound sciences are understood, through which man has a better ability to discern and verify those things that cannot be attained by everyone.
With careful study and practice, we're given a chance to gain awareness of the Eternal One, a singularity underlying all the rainbow of multiplicity which composes the universe. Yet, some will not be able. To help with the arduous journey, many sages and wizards of the past appear in the Picatrix. The philosophers and other magicians quoted in the Picatrix are a blend of historical figures like Pythagoras, Plato, Hippocrates, Galileus, Aristotle, or the first teacher as he's referred to, the Queen Cleopatra, Ptolemy of Babylon, various Indian and Arab sages, but also mythological figures like Moses. Aaron, Enoch, Solomon, and Hermes Trismegistus, all of which are blended together into one philosophical tapestry. Despite this, 3 distinct types of magic are claimed to appear within the Picatrix and are demarcated by geography and culture. As the Picatrix says, "This explains that this science is divided into 3 parts. Of these, the first is the science of magic, and those who study and practice it most are those we have named Azahabin, who are the captive Chaldean slaves. The second is the science of the stars, and of praying to them with suffumagations, sacrifices, prayers, and writings. And those who are the most zealous in this science are the Greeks, who are very subtle, knowledgeable, and intelligent in it, that is, in astrology. And they have true knowledge because astrology is considered the root of the entire science of magic. The third part, in turn, is the science that works with suffumigations, sayings, and words properly assigned to these things, as well as the science of calling spirits together by these words and sending them away again. The Hindus are most versed in this last science, and those from Leman and the Nabateans in Egypt practice it most. Each of the aforesaid divisions has its own theoretical foundation and practical essence."
So just for anyone that might feel a little bit lost by the verbiage that's used, suffumigations is just like the stuff that you burn, which might be incense, that kind of stuff.
Babies,
Oils, resins, blood, poo-poo.
semen, goat nipples, dragonflies,
The water. The water of blood.
belly buttons,
Horsehair, eye of newt.
pizza pops.
You could burn a pizza pop. It could be a suffumigation item.
So while the author understands the uniqueness of each culture's particular nuance, ritual and ceremonial magic is considered syncretic, borrowing from all of them, and seen as the culmination of one's learning. The operative idea being, if you attained enough knowledge, you would, at the conclusion, be able to apply all your wisdom toward demonstrable use of actual magic. You know, like making stuff levitate and throwing fireballs out of your eyes, that kind of stuff.
Or be invisible while you pee on somebody. Magic.
Yeah, one didn't do art for art's sake or science for science sake, but to accomplish enlightenment and, eventually, miraculous power. While enlightenment is admirable, some of the miraculous powers described in the Picatrix are as grandiose and unbelievable as one might expect in a Dungeons & Dragons spell index.
True. This book is like a player's manual for a fucking tabletop game.
For instance, Plato is supposed to, according to the Picatrix, have written books on magic, one greater and one lesser, whose spells include teleportation, walking on water, transforming into animals or monsters, provoking rain during drought or holding it back, flying, destroying enemy cities, speaking with the dead, and of course, changing ropes and spears into snakes.
That's so useful.
So are these books that are just hidden in the Vatican?
Absolutely.
Where are these Plato's books? Where are these books of Plato's?
No, you remember you had to collect all the like soda caps and mail them in? Nobody did it. That's why nobody knows this shit.
I've heard it said that when Plato is speaking about Atlantis, he's using coded language like what we spoke about earlier in the episode. Now, one section early in the Picatrix claims many miraculous powers of the, quote, Hindus.
It should be noted and made clear that the Hindus have their own strength and power through words, which they are freed and healed from deadly poisons without medicine. Similarly, they have sayings and words by which, whenever they wish, someone will be evilly vexed by demons. And in the same way, it is possible to transmute the senses solely by hearing the aforementioned words, and the Hindus can cause any change they wish to cause by virtue of these same words.
But that's not all. They performed similar wonders with women, whom they caused to conceive without intercourse with men. And they do this with motions, workings, and medicines. Some Hindus make a certain medicinal wine which they drink, and which forbids them from growing old and suffering the infirmities of old age, and they can only die a natural death because of the virtue of this wine. Implicit in these things are other, even more powerful things, for these things just mentioned are provided to them by nature, but the others are yielded up only to diligence and labor, and they have the greatest power to enchant and fascinate others in this world.
Damn. They're having all kinds of immaculate conceptions over there.
Just drink this little potion, you'll get preggers.
Woo!
Saying they do it with motions and workings. Work it.
You do the twerk just right, you automatically just get pregnant.
Bam!
Boom. Twerk, baby.
I just imagine like those priests that throw their hands in front of the crowds and they all knock over, and then as everybody's just knocked up, even the dudes.
All pregnant. Oh, I'm pregnant now. In Chapter 2, the working of this knowledge or philosophy is related to the practice of magic itself, whose power is derived from the power of, quote, original causes. First, practical magic is explained as the effect of spirit upon spirit, which includes a pretty broad array of things, including both genuine transmutations as well as illusions. Secondly, talismanic magic is understood as spirit affecting the body. And lastly, third, alchemy is the science of the body affecting the body.
You were mentioning how talismanic magic works by affecting the body and like spirit interaction. I think it's very easy to understand talismans as the body, and then when they say you're charging it, you're bringing a spirit into that body. Like you're giving it somewhere to live and breathe and, work, do the twerk.
The Picatrix also describes even you as the magician as being that.
Like a vessel for spirit.
Yeah, like the magician doesn't have the power.
You're a host to it, right?
You're a tool that like works with the power.
Or is it the other way around?
Concerning talismans specifically, the Picatrix explains, the effect results from the relations between numbers, from the secrets of the sphere, which are manifest in certain bodies at certain times, and from incense burned for strength and to attract the pneuma that belong to the talisman. So it's like what you said, you're hacking reality with different incense and numbers and associations, and then inviting a spirit into the physical body of an object. So if you create a specific object in a specific way at a specific time, it will embody the qualities and characters of the spiritual entity it was modeled from. This makes each of us a kind of talisman with our birth chart as the script, as you just mentioned.
And it just kind of carries that energy with it, essentially. Like your talisman now is imbued with that.
Yeah, like
with that moment.
You are an Aries, like you're gonna do Aries stuff for your whole life.
Yeah, much like our birth chart basically is carried with us, like the spirit of that time and place.
Even there's whole generations and stuff, like some of those planets take a lot longer to move out of the signs. So for, a whole generation, we're born in a certain sign of Pluto. America, founded in 1776, we're having a Pluto return. I think it's for the first time.
And that's
since
why
we
everything
left.
sucks.
Oh, yeah. It's getting crazy. So, I'm saying here, anything can be a talisman because you can found a nation on a particular day. You can announce, I'm going to be president on a certain day to ride on these cosmic waves, essentially. That's called electoral. Natal is like your natal chart and like what has already kind of happened. You kind of can't do anything about it. You're just kind of acknowledging, I am a Sag, born on blah, 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 whatever. I can do these things. These are like my strengths and my weaknesses, right? Then there's an approach to this all where you're aware of what's happening in the sky and you're waiting for a specific time, specific placements so that you can make a talisman, charge it with the said names of the associated powers and numbers, and then boom, like carry that as like a charm or a spell casting tool.
So basically what you're saying is that your natal chart is like your personal stat sheet, your starting stat sheet that you carry with you. And that when you make a talisman, you essentially do the same thing. You're making it at a certain time and giving it a certain stat sheet.
Yeah, you're programming it.
Now, this occurred to me while researching the episode. Let's say you make a sword on a day where there's 2 good alignments with whatever the ruling planet governs your work. That sword is +2. Now, if you do it on a day where there's like 4 astrological alignments that help, it's a +4 sword, right? And it can go like all the way up to +7 and +8. I had always wondered what that meant. Like a +2 short sword, a +3 spear. That's what it is.
Stat boost.
Stat boost. This is the original stat boost.
It's really fun when you learn this stuff because then you're like, I really am in a fucking RPG. I can have some fun with magic now. It's been boring all the way up to here. It's like, oh, cool. Like this stuff can make a lot of sense to me. For me, I'm big on Jupiter because I'm a Sag and stuff, and we're getting close to like a nice, cool shift for Jupiter. So I just imagine, like if my altar of choice for a Jupiter talisman is an oak tree that was struck by lightning, like out in the woods, right? Like the oak is associated with Zeus or Jupiter, lightning, storm, Jupiter, Zeus. So I would definitely make a Jupiter talisman on such an altar, just to give it some more power. Some of the things we want to look out for, if you want, you can make it on the planetary day. So that would be like a Thursday for Jupiter. Then you would find the planetary hour. When is this going to happen? There's another term that's used in this stuff of whether the planet's culminating or not. So there's like 2 points where the planet will be at its highest point on the ecliptic plane and the lowest point. You're going to want this at the highest highest it can be. You kind of don't have a choice though. If you're doing electoral things, it's really hard to get like all these, the +8 and the +7. It's really, really hard.
That's why you need to be a skilled wizard with a high stat sheet.
On that note, some talisman making people do not consider the day. They're just looking for the planetary hour. But if you get lucky, it might be on the day. So you might count that as a +1. You're going to want to see if the sign that the planet is in is dignified and the sign, if they like harmonize with each other. Jupiter is in Pisces. So technically right now it is kind of in a good synergy with the planet. It just came out of retrograde. So it's kind of like the law is coming back. The host woke up from being hungover. He's cleaning up the party mess so they can party again soon. Mars is in retrograde still, and it will be for the next few weeks. One more thing that you want to look out for is like the angular, the aspects to the Jupiter placement and the sign. Are they complementary to Jupiter's function? We kind of have some good placements, coming up for Jupiter, but like I said, there are a lot of things going on in space right now that are, you kind of can't make a talisman for Jupiter.
I also think it's really important to note at this point that if you're going to make a talisman, you have to also realize that it's going to vary greatly on your location. So like what might be good for Malachor in LA might not be good for me in Vancouver, because even a slight variation of location or time, even 40 minutes, can change the aspects. So you're going to want to look into it for yourself for these times and see what the aspects are.
Right. So some of the negative aspects, and I think I put them in like severity order. So like the most like important one you want to avoid, I put first, and then the last one I put least important one to worry about last. But squares of opposition, so when 4 planets are in a square on the chart, if they're all like opposite forces and they're all in that square, don't make a talisman with any of those planets. Like that's just going to mess you up.
Ideally, you don't want any planets squared with what you're working
No
with.
squares.
No squares.
Yeah, no squares is best, because then that means other planets are in danger of, you need everything in a good spot. So any squares is bad.
Or like for an example, if you have an aspect with another planet that's ideal, but that planet has a square with another planet, it might affect the positive aspect between those 2 planets. Does that make sense? So like even if a planet isn't squared to, let's say, Jupiter, which is what you're working with, you still want to look at what those aspects are and how they're connected.
So it's not hip to be a square.
No.
So another thing you really don't want would be a conjunction of afflicted planets. So this would be 2 planets, from our point of view, look like they're in the general same part of the sky in the same sign. So they would start to mix their powers, essentially. So it's when a planet is in union with natural malefics like Mars or Saturn. So for example, if Venus and Mars were in the same part of the sky, that's not a really good marriage sign. That's going to be a weird marriage. It's going to take a lot of work, and it's going to be pretty brutal.
It's like an automatic minus as opposed to a plus.
Right. And then we move on to an undignified Mars or Saturn. We kind of want those 2 planets have to be in their respective ruling signs or their domicile signs or close to them if you're going to be ballsy about it.
That could take a long time if it's Saturn.
Yeah.
This is why some people wait, 2 years plus to make talismans, because they're waiting for a good alignment.
And right now, Mars and Saturn are in Aquarius. So Mars is in Gemini and Saturn is in Aquarius. They're not where they should be. So they're not really giving their authoritative power. The penetrative power of Mars is not going to be present as it should be. And the very long enduring casting spell effect of a Saturn spell is not going to be present.
So if you cast when these guys are not in their respective signs, you're probably going to get an unwieldy type energy that you can't control very well, and it won't be very long lived in your talisman.
Yeah.
Yeah, it won't be as strong. Although I do have to correct Malachor. Saturn was the traditional ruler of Aquarius, so...
Is it in Aquarius right now?
We need to make talismans now.
Okay, so I'm wrong in the notes here. Saturn is in Aquarius. So we do have a plus. It is dignified right now. So this Jupiter talisman is actually a lot better than I thought in a couple weeks from now, from today, 30th of November. So next on the list, we would have combust of a planet.
This comes up a lot in the text. You hear oh, make sure the planet's not combust.
Make sure the moon is safe from the combustion of the sun.
Right. So this is it's apparent closeness. Essentially, it's going to burn the strength of the planet away. So Jupiter is considered combust within 11 degrees of the sun. And in my example, that I have, it's at 16, so technically it wouldn't be combust. So it would be a good thing to make this talisman. And then you don't want the planet in retrograde. I know Mars is in retrograde, but if that was in Aries, I would still make a Jupiter talisman because I'm making a Jupiter talisman. I'm not worried about, if Mars is retrograde in Aries, it's like, okay, you're going to do what I want you to do more or less though, because you're just going through some stuff. But, that's why Jupiter would be able to handle that, especially if it's on the opposite side of that whole thing with the sun and the ascendant house and all that stuff. And like I said, all these negative and positive things have levels of like importance and how much it will fuck with you or the talisman. So like I jokingly say, like having a C-section with your baby is like, I want my baby born at this time with these aspects. And that's kind of weird, but that's like a designer baby, magical designer baby in my eyes.
That is a big eye opener.
Now, talismans are not the only thing described in the Picatrix. There's also elixirs. Elixirs are described as substances which turn whatever they are introduced into themselves. As the Picatrix says, the word al-ixir means capable of destroying all the powers that want to change it. Al-ixir overwhelms them, making their substance into its own. They become alike. Is this a real thing?
So when I kind of got to this part of the book, this is where I was like, I'm not going to do any of this stuff because I'm more into talisman making. That's why I had so much to say about it. So I don't really know from experience about elixirs and stuff like that. I've heard of, people distilling, herbs and making powerful potions and stuff, but I don't know if that's essentially what it's saying here.
Yeah, and that's what I was gonna say because it reminds me of potions, and even tinctures for that matter, or teas even, or like they're more medicinal. Like you use them for healing or affecting the body. But from the way that it explains elixir, it sounds to me like a drinkable talisman that you can infuse with your own body.
My understanding of this is that it is referring to a kind of alchemical philosopher's stone. That is the way that it's described, where it is something that you can introduce to something so that they become alike. This is like the alchemical process of multiplication that we went through last episode in explaining like the different stages of alchemy. So to me, this is kind of a great unknown secret for like top mages when they mention elixirs in the Picatrix.
But if it's infused with a certain kind of spirit or energy, and then drinking it makes you more like that, like it intunes you to that vibrational energy, right?
Yeah, it's significantly more complicated than a simple tincture, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's not just like medicine or herbalism. It's much more than that.
In my opinion, what they're referring to is a lot more complicated than like an essential oil or a tincture.
I can only think of things I don't think the text is referring to. How a virus turns other cells into factories of its own viral code, or how during a nuclear reaction, when the gluons like split off, it creates a chain reaction. But I think we're told there's some legendary philosopher's stone, maybe even mercury oxide, right? They were messing around with where they thought they could add it to base metals and melt it all together and it would become gold.
Well, like to me, you know how there's essential oils and then there's spagyrics, and spagyrics are significantly more complicated than essential oils. So by comparison to me, spagyrics would be like significantly more simplified than the elixirs that they are referring to in this book.
I tried to find an example of what an elixir might be. Now, if I'm a little off, feel free to correct me, but I think this is what it's referring to. In Book 3, Chapter 11, there's a spell to appear in whatever animal form you wish. It says,
Sweet.
Take the head of an animal and its grease, and scalatia nuts. Using as many of these latter as you wish. Cover them with oil in a jug, put on a gentle fire for a day and a night until all the oil flows from them. When it is cooled, strain it well. If you light a lamp with this and anoint someone's face with it, he will appear in the form of that animal standing upright. This may be done with the heads of diverse animals, and in the same way he will appear as diverse animals.
Oh my gosh, this is exactly how you make a first.
It's how you become a person.
I mean, for me, looking at this and trying to think of it in like an alchemical sense, when it says the head of an animal and its grease, it kind of, that alone to me says like you have this whole process of obtaining the oil from the animal head before you even get to combining it with the nuts.
But the idea is that you take the ingredient of the animal and then it turns you into the likeness of the animal. So it's an elixir, right?
It's like you're transferring it through the elixir to your own person.
I think it would probably qualify as like a form of elixir, maybe not like a specific philosopher's stone, like a stone
But it works in the same principle.
I think that's the idea, is that it works in the same kind of fashion.
The problem is that you need the head of an animal, which is really not ethical to source. I guess unless, you ate the animal from your farm.
Unless it was an ant.
You really would get what you deserve if you just turned into the head of an animal.
How many ants would I need to make ant grease? Find out next time.
You can obtain oil of ant, for sure.
How many would I need, though?
Just a head of one.
Just a
What
whole
kind of-
colony? Just wipe out a whole colony of... well, let's make it a challenge. Amazon bullet ants. Fuck it. Let's go.
They're pretty big, aren't
Pay
they?
me. Those are the
shit.
most painful ones.
Aren't they big, though? You probably need less of
Yeah.
them.
Yeah, it's...
What if you got the queen?
Just want to make ant people now.
Oil of queen ant.
You can go buy fish heads.
Yeah,
true.
and then I know people that do taxidermy, and they usually will find like roadkill or like do scavenging, and people have found like whole skeletons like pretty fresh.
Yep.
So you could totally take it from something that's already gone. Like, it's not like you have to go out killing things to make elixirs, in my opinion.
Let's say theoretically you do, and you need to get away from the law. You are.
I'm seeing a criminal cycle here. It's just like, well, I need to be invisible so I can go and chop some more heads off. So I got to chop some heads off before,
Don't forget the peeing on people.
Did we reiterate not to chop off
Yeah.
animal heads? Don't chop off animal heads, people.
But let's say you need to turn invisible. This is what the Picatrix says. I have seen, however, a certain composition to conceal people, which is made in this way. When you desire to do this, take one rabbit on the 24th night of the Arabian month, and behead it facing the moon, and continually looking at her. Suffumigate with the suffumigation of the moon, saying the words of the moon given above, and then say, I call you, angelic spirit of magic, and all that is hidden, you who are called Salmaquil. By this I supplicate you, who distributes your virtue and power and strength in this work, that you will deign to give what I ask of you out of those things attributed to your power. When you have said this, take the blood of the aforementioned rabbit, which you should mix with its bile. You should bury its body so that nobody is able to see it, because if you go away and anyone uncovers it in the daytime, that is, when the sun is elevated above it, the spirit of the moon will kill you.
Stupid bitch.
The blood, when you have taken it and mixed it in the bile, should be taken away with you and kept for use. When you wish to hide yourself and be seen by nobody, take some of the blood and bile mixed as above in the hour of the moon and anoint your face with it. And do not cease to say the aforementioned words of the moon, because while you say them, you will make yourself totally hidden from the sight of others, and in this way will be able to achieve whatever you desire. When, however, you wish to become seen and become visible again to others, cease to say the same words and wash your face and anoint it with the brain of aforesaid rabbit and say, You, O spirit of the moon, reveal me and make me appear to people. Then everyone will see you. This is amongst the works of the moon, and is considered one of the great secrets and profundities of this science.
Is
I'm
Is the power of invisibility worth the risk of being murdered by the moon?
I mean, that sounds pretty scary. Also, they don't tell you to use the brain until after you're like supposed to get rid of the rabbit. It's like kind of funny. Also, like, this just gives me vibes of like just seeing like a random naked homeless person with like guts smeared all over them, and they're like, "You can't see me, you can't see me."
Don't come near my mound of dirt. You'll kill me with the spirit of the moon.
Well, okay, so it says that you should bury the rabbit's body. So you don't bury the head because you've beheaded the rabbit. So you bury the body, but you still have the head. So yeah,
What
you
does
still
it
have
say
the
to
brain.
behead it?
It
At
says
the very
beheaded right at the
beginning.
start. That's how you kill it.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Because I thought it meant like bury the whole thing.
You bury its body. And then you just have this head kicking around and you're like, ooh, brains.
Okay, fair enough.
So if you lose the rabbit brains, you have to be invisible forever?
Yeah,
that's what
I
was
think
thinking.
I think you're fucked.
That's how I would have done it, because I always forget stuff in recipes.
You're like and trying to dig it back up.
So always like study ahead and read the entire recipe before getting started.
Where did I put the rabbit brains? But if you'd like to hear the second half of this conversation, please visit www.patreon.com, where your monthly subscription of just $5 will get you access to all our extended episodes, including this one where we discuss lunar mansions, the esoteric use of body parts,
How to stop bleeding with magic.
how to cure depression,
The Picatrix cured my depression.
And scabies.
what kind of robes you should wear when speaking to Saturn.
I'll be the first to tell you, no robes is the way to talk to Saturn.
Woo!
And many more recipes which will help you eat carrots and shoot lasers.